Hello everyone, back to the latest Star Wars video. So I just wanted to bring you up to date with the latest statistics for the Rise of Skywalker that's been out now since the end of last week. So first of all, we're going to look at the latest scores at Rotten Tomatoes, and then we'll see how much the Rise of Skywalker earned in the US over its weekend, its opening weekend on release. So just say, but if you're enjoying my style of content on the channel, please like, share and subscribe, and let us know in the comments what you think to the videos. Excuse me, still got a little bit of a tickle from the flu that I had earlier in the month. Right, so latest in terms of the tomato meter, very much as it was when we did the last video. So the critic score is currently standing, and that's the tomato meter currently standing at 56%. That is rotten. It's under the 60% minimum requirement to be fresh. So this film, Rise of Skywalker, is now going to be rotten at RottenTomatoes.com. The audience score is very good though, still at 86%, holding up really, really well. If we click on more info, we can drill down that a little bit. So all critics, in terms of the tomato meter, at 56%, but if we go to the top critics, that actually goes down to 49%, so even more disappointing if we just look at the top critics. The audience score, though, looks very good, verified at 86%, all audience at 77%, so a little bit lower with the all audience score compared to the verified score. Nevertheless, 77% is still pretty decent. So this film is certainly dividing the fans and the critics again, but in the opposite direction to The Last Jedi, where the critical response was very, very good. The fan response, the audience response, was very poor. This is the opposite. So the critics' response is poor, and the fan response is pretty good for the people who are seeing this film. Now, this is how much the Rise of Skywalker earned in its opening weekend in the US. So this is from boxofficereport.com, a tweet from their Twitter account. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker debuted with $177.38 million this weekend. Hashtag Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, hashtag box office at Disney Studios at Star Wars. So that sounds like a huge amount of money, doesn't it? $177.38 million. Actually, that's quite disappointing for the opening weekend of an episodic Star Wars movie. Most people assumed, although Disney was projecting around 160, but they tend to be on the very low end to try and make it seem like playing the expectation management. So they always go for a very low opening weekend, and then the idea is that it will come in way, way above that very low prediction. Most independent analysts were predicting that Rise of Skywalker would get $200 million, or around $200 to $215 million in its opening weekend. So $177 million. I mean, it's a huge amount of money, isn't it? But you have to think how much it takes to make the Rise of Skywalker, and particularly this film has had, we believe, although nothing's been confirmed, but we believe there's been a lot of production problems and crises as we've gone along. The first director, Colin Trevorrow, was fired. J.J. Abrams was brought in at the last moment. There's rumours about how they sort of developed a story with George Lucas, but Disney didn't like that, and the George Lucas story was discarded, and they sort of went back and refilmed a lot of the movie and took out all of George Lucas's sort of ideas for this film. So kind of what happened with Solo, in a lot of ways, a Star Wars story, where around 80% of the film was shot with the original directors, and then they were fired, and Ron Howard was brought in, and the film was totally redone. So it's kind of like making two films, if you like. They're still going to pay for that first movie that they've made, and then they've got to pay for the second version of that movie. So we don't know how much they've spent to make the Rise of Skywalker, but they've spent a lot of money making this film, and then of course got the marketing, the promotion as well. So it's generally assumed that if this film does not make $1 billion worldwide, it's going to be a disappointment. And already it's tracking underneath The Last Jedi for its opening weekend in the US. So it's not doing particularly well its opening weekend in the US. The Last Jedi opened underneath The Force Awakens, which was a huge, absolute massive juggernaut of the film. The Last Jedi opened under that, and the second week drop-off of The Last Jedi was very, very bad indeed, because the film did not have, it was a real downer, wasn't it? So it didn't have sort of repeat viewing sort of potential. It didn't bring the audience back week after week, every weekend for like a month to watch it again. So it had a big drop off for Last Jedi, and this film, Rise of Skywalker, is already underneath The Last Jedi for its opening weekend. Now, one thing I would say about this, though, is that we are very close to Christmas, much closer to Christmas with the opening of this film than, for instance, The Last Jedi. So I think we have to see how it performs through this week. It's possible that Christmas, being so close to Christmas, that's affecting things. It may be that actually the coming weekend, after Christmas, will not have that sort of second weekend drop off that we saw with The Last Jedi. It could be that the legs on this film is going to be better, and so overall it might make the same or more money than The Last Jedi if it has better box office legs. But there's no getting away from it. The opening weekend has been very disappointing, really, for an episodic Star Wars movie to make just 170, I say just, I mean, it's a huge amount of money again, we have to put this into context, but for an episodic Star Wars film to, in its opening weekend in the US, to make $177 million is a disappointing number, I think, and there's no getting away from that. And we just have to wait and see how this performs over Christmas and then after. Because as I say, this is being released much closer to Christmas than the Last Jedi was. So it could be that being so close to Christmas is having an effect on the opening weekend, and a lot of people possibly are waiting until kind of Christmas. I believe cinemas in America open on Christmas Day, so people do actually, this always blows me away that this happens, but people do actually go to the cinema and watch Star Wars films on Christmas Day in the United States. So it could be that people are holding back to Christmas Day and the days after, and that's the reason that the opening weekend was relatively disappointing. We shall see in the coming days. Obviously, I'll keep you updated about how this is performing and tracking in the next few days. But if it was to carry on with its run being underneath The Last Jedi, so if it has an even bigger drop-off in its second weekend than The Last Jedi did, for example, then it would struggle to make $1 billion, and that would be worldwide, and that would be seen as a huge failure, really, for Disney, who have spent so much making this film and also marketing it, promoting it, getting it into so many cinemas. So high stakes indeed, and if it doesn't make $1 billion, I struggle to see that it won't make $1 billion, really. But if it doesn't make $1 billion, that would be seen as a big failure for Disney, and I assume heads would then roll at Lucasfilm, but we shall see. By the way, I still have not seen The Rise of Skywalker, so if you're wondering when I'm going to post my review, probably after Christmas now. Just been so busy with the day job, doing the weather channel and the weather videos, that I haven't had the time to go and see it. And still, I'm not feeling all that well, actually, after having flu earlier in December. But I will get to see The Rise of Skywalker, and I will post a review here on the channel, give you my thoughts and opinion about it when I finally get to see it. Hopefully, that will be before the new year, but obviously it will be after Christmas now. Right then, so if you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll be back with more Star Wars content very, very soon. That's all for now, though. Thanks for watching.